Have you ever tried to do a nav in Flight Sim using the default EFB only to realize halfway through that the landmarks are off, the airspace boundaries are a bit vague, and you're not entirely sure if that lake is real or just decorative? Yeah, me too, and it's frustrating. And honestly, it makes practice flights harder than they need to be. But today, I'm going to show you how to hook up your real-world EFB, in my case OzRunways, to Microsoft Flight Sim so you can bring real-world tools into your sim sessions for that extra dose of realism. So as Trent Robinson from the Flight Training Australia podcast would enthusiastically say,
so strap in and let's get into it.
So let's set the scene. I'm going to be working with Flight Sim 2020 today for reasons said in my previous video, but the exact same steps work for Flight Sim 2024. And I'll be connecting my EFB to Flight Sim using a plugin called Xmapsy, and I'll be managing the required plugin for this using the Sim Market app. So make sure you're all signed into the Sim Market and have their app pre-installed and loaded before you get started. First up, inside the Sim Market app, search for the Xmapsy app. There are two versions of the app available, the Essential and V3. Looking through their documentation, you can see that some of the EFBs are compatible with the Essential version, whilst others are only compatible with V3. For me, with OzRunways, we need the V3 version. Now, it's probably important here to highlight that there is a demo version available of Xmapsy if you wanted to test this out first before giving away any more of your valuable Avgas fun tickets. Either way, grab and download your preferred version, run the installer, and click all the usual buttons to get it loaded. There's nothing too unusual here. Once you've got it installed, you can now run it, and you should see the following message pop up on your screen telling you that this must be run on the same PC the sim is running on. This seems logical. You might need to check your firewall and open up any relevant UDP ports to allow it to freely communicate with your EFB, and also check that your EFB settings are set to broadcast with GDL90. Now, I'm running OzRunways on my iPad mini here, and you can confirm the option is set by opening settings, going to device options, and enable GDL90. Coming back to Xmapsy, when you select OK, it might look like there is nothing happening, but Xmapsy should now be running in the background down in your system tray, waiting for the Flight Sim to kick into action. You can tell it's not currently connected to Flight Sim from the red indicator light. One last thing before we boot up Flight Sim is that you can right click on the system tray icon here to open up the Xmapsy settings, allowing you to fine tune how it operates. Now, there is a large number of settings here, but don't worry, the defaults should pretty much get you by with OzRunways and Flight Sims. But the one thing that you do need to pay attention to is the network selection and send data to this broadcast address settings. This should be targeting the network address that your EFB, in this case my iPad, is on. So it's important that your iPad or iPhone is on the exact same network. In OzRunways, you can go into the settings and simulator mode, turn it on to work with Flight Sim, and you'll see a section that says My IP address. Check this address and make sure that at least the first few numbers are the same as what is set in Xmapsy. Now, you can type in the exact address of your EFB into Xmapsy to match if you'd like, but essentially this 255 range is saying to broadcast to all addresses in this range. So by default, Xmapsy for me is broadcasting data to any device on the 198.168.0 range, meaning that I could use a different iPad or even my iPhone without having to reconfigure Xmapsy every time. Right, with all that said and done, we can now boot up Flight Sim, load in a flight, and as soon as we do that, you see that the Xmapsy tray icon has now turned blue, indicating that we are connected to Flight Sim. And with OzRunways loaded up on my iPad, I can see that my location is now showing that I'm parked up near the Eastern Apron out at Archerfield Airport. One of the biggest benefits I've found in having my EFB connected into Flight Sim is simply the ability to use real-world charts and airport diagrams to help me better familiarise myself with new airspaces. Recently for me, I've just started flying out of Archerfield Airport as I work towards finishing off my PPL. And if you've ever looked at the Brisbane airspace here in Queensland, you'll know that it can be a bit of a maze. It's a lot of Class C steps, you've got Amberley's RA zones just off to the west, visual reporting points over varying terrain. It can be a lot to process. But having OzRunways open in the sim gives me the real confidence to practice with purpose. I can see every boundary step, and I can hunt for landmarks or visual cues that I might reference in the real world and build my situational awareness in a safe and controlled environment. And this isn't just constrained to only exploring airspace. Using OzRunways airport charts, you can use this to help build a better understanding of complex taxi routes so that you can both mentally and practically rehearse complex taxi instructions without the risk of receiving a very public learning moment over the ground frequency to every pilot in a 10-mile radius. Now, it might seem counterintuitive as well, but I even use my EFB connected to FlightSim to practice my dead reckoning and pilotage skills. Now, to do this, I plan a flight in OzRunways, but I intentionally turn off my GPS HUD and my aircraft position off. So now I have OzRunways as my digital map with all my airport charts and kind of visual navigation waypoints, but I fly my routes in the FlightSim. If I'm ever in doubt and want to really peek on my location, I can turn my aircraft location back on, or I can wait to the end of my flight and view my flight track back in the OzRunways app to see how close or far off course I actually was. So there you go, sim up, EFB connected, and maybe even a little bit sharper for your next real flight. Let me know how you're using this in your flight journey, and I'll see you in the next video.